Welcome, U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito. Senator, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. Thanks.
Good. Two bipartisan resolutions aimed at trying to void the EPA's Clean Power Plan regulations for new and existing power plants passed the House yesterday. They'd already passed the Senate. These are bipartisan resolutions co-sponsored by you, Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell from Kentucky, Senator Joe Manchin, of course, of West Virginia. So now it goes to the president's desk. We know what he's going to do with it, Senator. He's going to put it in the shredder. So what is the force of these resolutions?
Well, I think the force is the strong signal that it sends that the voices of the people, the House and the Senate, don't agree with the direction the president's going. And I think, in light of the fact that the president is in Paris or has been in Paris negotiating international climate agreements, these resolutions, I think, send a signal not just throughout our country but around the world that he's on shaky ground, that we're concerned about the economics of this, picking winners and losers. And certainly we know that West Virginia will be on the detrimental end of both new and existing coal-fired power plants regulations that have moved forward.
I think
so whether he shreds it or not, it's still a big and broad statement as to what can we do to push back against the president's overreach in the regulatory area.
So that's a statement that's being made, and to some degree bipartisan. What are the tactical steps that can be taken, because this thing's moving at full speed in Paris right now?
Well, it is, but also the president's making commitments to a world climate fund that he can't fulfill. And the nation's, these resolutions basically say we disagree with the policy, but at the appropriations levels, which we're going to be dealing with here in the next week, we're also going to send another message that says, and he doesn't have the money to move forward with this. And so I think it weakens his position, and I think it'll cause great questions in the global community. Even though he can say whatever he wants, remember, he refuses to put this into the treaty realm that we could actually have senatorial approval on it. So he can make an executive agreement, but it doesn't have the force or the support of the American public.
Well, it's not in treaty form because he knows it wouldn't pass the Senate if it was a treaty.
Correct. Right. Right. And so I think that this is more than just symbolic. I think it has great substance, and that it also, fortifies our position as we move into the courts, where we're questioning whether these regulations are moving forward, and to the appropriations process.
U.S. Senator Shelley Moore Capito is with us. Senator, let me step back and take a little more a broader approach to this. Is that we talk about this a lot. I do almost ad nauseum, quite frankly, and at times, though, I have to wonder if there appears to be such momentum in the country and around the world to take steps to dramatically reduce carbon emissions in industrialized nations, and then we're going to pay off the emerging economies. We're going to do all these things, and the EPA is taking these steps with the carbon rules, on and on. Is it just not? Is it a fight that can't be won? Is it a fight that simply can't be won, and we should just ride the surf here, take the federal buy-off that they're going to offer of billions of dollars, and try to do something else?
I would say no, because look at what's happening to the economy in West Virginia. The state collections are way down. I know you talk about this a lot.
Yes.
First time cut to education. Our county, we're losing population. Our workforce is severely decimated, and we have some of the highest unemployment in the country. So I'm not going to stand by and just ride the surf and say this is okay. What I'm going to push for is innovation, research, development, that where I think that if we invest the dollars, we can use not just the innovation to capture the carbon, but to reutilize it in some. I'm not smart enough to figure out the way to do it, but it can be used as a byproduct that could be useful, whether it's enhanced oil recovery or something of that nature. So I think that to just throw up my hands and say, it's a done deal would be a disservice to not just the country, but particularly to the people of West Virginia. And let's look at what we've already done. We are now, over the course of the last 15 years, had measurable improvements on the air quality.
Right.
That's a good thing, without pushing this to the limit. This is going to hurt our most vulnerable citizens, too, when you start looking at what the cost of our electricity will be. And there's still a question, too, as to the reliability of the grid. Where is the replacement here? We don't have that. And so I still think these are valuable, strong questions to be asked. and I'm going to keep asking them.
Senator, let's talk about the highway bill, which hashtag FTDR. In fact, there is now agreement on a highway bill. We're going to have a long-term bill.
Do you have a new hashtag? Do you have a new hashtag?
Well, I got to come up with something. Well, the money.
You do.
Okay, let me think about that. I hadn't thought I was too hung up on.
FAST Act. It's called the FAST Act.
It's called the FAST Act. Now, I'm a hypocrite here because you're doing it without raising the gasoline tax, and I'm going to ask you about that. If you had raised the gasoline tax, I'd be saying, why are you raising the gasoline tax? But I'm going to turn that around and say there are some critics of this legislation say, well, you got some industry giveaways in here, you got some funny kind of accounting measures to try to pay for the $300 billion. Wouldn't it make more sense to, in fact, raise the gasoline tax so that those who use the roads pay for the roads?
Well, let's just look at what we're doing here. This
Okay.
is the first time in over 20 years we've had a 5-year plan. This will really let the states innovate. It will give them an ability to make long-term planning that they haven't had in the last 2 decades. So to have it fully paid for is an enormous bonus. We've cobbled the money together through a lot of different mechanisms because the gas tax doesn't fully fund this. If the gas tax had been indexed originally, I think we would have much less of a problem. I think that is, in and of itself, is one of the problems. But, even with the price of gasoline down, there still is no political appetite to raise the gas tax. So we've got to find another way to pay for it. We found those ways to pay for it. It's over $2 billion to West Virginia. It definitely answers the issue of fix the damn roads. It helps with bridges. It helps with buses. It has some set-asides for rural places, high-cost development like Quarter H or King Cole Highway. It also has in there the aspect that I've been pushing, which is the rural broadband through the Appalachian to ARC. So there's a lot of really, really good things. So this is a victory. It's a bipartisan victory, and I think we should all celebrate it.
Okay.
Without nitpicking it to death and figuring out what's wrong with it. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying maybe.
Well, I was nitpicking some, but I mean, that's my job. I nitpick. Let me finally, before I let you go, so the Senate now has the votes to repeal Obamacare. Now, you're on board with this, but as I understand it, that part of this would delay, if it passes the Senate and the president will veto, but part of it would delay the rollback of the Medicaid expansion for 2 years. But do you want to be on record rolling back the expansion of Medicaid, which 160,000 West Virginians are now receiving?
I want to be on record as repealing again Obamacare. It is dying under its own weight. When you have the only provider in West Virginia this year saying they're raising their premiums 24%, they actually thought about exiting the plan. That the United Healthcare, which is the largest provider on the exchange, announced yesterday that it was a bad decision for them to move into this. The weight of this $1 trillion Obamacare plan is limiting choice. It's limiting our abilities, and it's way too expensive. So I'm on the record for repealing that, but I've also been on the record for replace, and that's where this transition of the 160,000 West Virginians who are now on Medicaid, I'm going to take credit for having a transition plan because there were some people who wanted to just shut it off immediately. I said, no, we can't pull the legs out of the stool of these folks who finally have some insurance. Let's give them a transition period of 2 years so that states and the federal government can come up with a better plan. The states can have more flexibility. The patient can have more say in where and how they're treated. To me, I think politically that's a winning message, and that's the one that's the reason I'm going to be voting for this.
So you're saying that there is another plan that, in your opinion, is better than Medicaid that could be accomplished in 2 years?
I think that if you talk to any governor who has Medicaid expansion, that they would like, now they've got the federal government paying for everything.
Right.
The state's going to have to begin paying for that expansion. I raised this issue 5 years ago, not knowing that we were going to be hundreds of millions of dollars short on our tax collections in West Virginia. Where is that governor going to find money to pay for the expansion of 160,000 people on Medicaid? So let's find a better plan to give our states the flexibilities to make those decisions for themselves. They don't have that flexibility in Obamacare. A transition period will let them do that. I think that's the better way. U.S.
Senator Shelley Moore Capito, thanks for coming on. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Okay. A lot of meat there. So the Senate that might have gotten lost in the shuffle. The Senate has the votes to repeal Obamacare. Now, there's a lot of caveats there, but it's a general repeal of Obamacare. Some of the politics of that, just as I alluded to, is that there are Democrats who are kind of salivating over this because they think they can use it against Republicans to say, oh, so you want to kick 160,000 people in West Virginia off Medicaid. You want to kick tens of thousands of people across the country who've just come on Medicaid. You want to kick them off. So that's if you're Capito or anybody else who's supporting this, you got to be able to come back with something, with some alternative. Otherwise, you're going to get skewered in the election on that.